Maybe those are Danny's pages. Yeah, because it starts with grief and then it'll go into, oh, okay, just got it. And it's still unwritten, so that is the blank pages that are going to be used. I don't know, just a theory.
Oh my gosh, like, what kind of friend does that? He's a horrible boyfriend and a horrible friend.
I was like, OMG, like, what is this? Hello everyone, welcome back to Screen Queens. I'm Ruby.
And I'm Thai.
And today we are crowning Midsommar as our week's film, and the title of today's episode is Grief in the Brightest Darkness.
Now before we get started, I just want to go back to last week's episode and how Ruby asked y'all a question. Do you guys still love your first love? Now a lot of you guys said yes, but there were some that said no, and I agree with y'all. I don't know about Ruby, but yeah. No. But moving forward, like Ruby said, today we're going to be analyzing and seeing all the different symbolism throughout the Midsommar movie. So for those of you who don't know what Midsommar is like a psychological thriller drama film where it's a young woman, her name's Danny, and she's going through grief. And at the beginning, it just shows how she lost her family, well, her parents as well as her sister through a tragic accident. And it's just her going through stages of grief, and she has a boyfriend, his name is Christian. And I don't really like Christian. He's not a good guy, I don't like him. But moving forward, he is planning on going to a trip to Sweden with his friends who invited him to this festival, Midsommar. And he invited Danny, not thinking that she would accept the invitation, so he was kind of like not pushing it towards her, but then she ended up joining, and she goes with his friends, and it's just a whole journey, and they're experiencing another culture, and it's called the Hagra, right?
Yeah, the Hagra.
The Hagra's culture. And there's a lot of like disturbing scenes, I will say. Yeah. So if you do plan on watching it, like peep that, and like, cause I had to look away in so many different,
so many.
And a lot of like, the main characters were very taken aback because it was so extreme to the point where there's people dying and there were sacrifices being made, and it just made the people visiting the main characters very uncomfortable at first. However, towards the end, Danny ends up becoming May Queen, which we'll go further into detail later on, and she ends up smiling at the end, which we'll talk about at the end, or towards further in, but yeah.
Yeah, overall, it's like a scary movie, not scary in the sense where there's like jump scares, but it's like you're on edge the whole time, and it's also really awkward. Like you feel like the tension that the characters are feeling in the movie itself, because they're talking a different language, like Swedish, and like the actors don't know that, we don't know that, so the director does a really good job of making us feel like we're also outside of it at the same time. So that was something really good. So it is like a creepy movie, but it has some good things to it.
Yeah, like when I was first watching it, because it was my first time seeing this, and I saw it with someone that had already seen it before, so he was always like, oh, watch this, pay attention closely. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he kept mentioning mirrors and reflections. I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But anytime there was like something creepy, even the soundtrack like gives you that vibe, like she said, it's the tension. And it made me feel very kind of uncomfortable and on my toes all the time when I was watching it.
Yeah, I also like picked up on the thing about mirrors. There's like a use of them where it's like very subtle, but if you pay attention, it's always like picturing something in the back. Even like in the first scene. So basically, Christian's friends did not want Danny to go on the trip with them, and Christian just invited her out of pity. So when Danny's like talking to her friends saying like, oh, I'm gonna go on a trip with you guys, like the camera's faced towards their friends, which is really awkward, but if you look slightly above, you can see that it's like Danny's shadow just like standing awkwardly, like it makes you feel like, oh my god, like she's in that room. That is so awkward. Like I can feel attention, she can feel attention. Like it was just like, that was really cool.
And when you mentioned that, that also happened before that scene where they were coming back from the party, where his friends had mentioned about going to Sweden for their trip, and Christian going like, oh well, it's not a for sure thing for me. But he had already bought his tickets and everything. And Danny confronts him at the apartment, and you can see like the shot is only like the mirror and her, and in the mirror it's like his reflection, and he's just like very not wanting to be in that conversation, like very hesitant, like why are you bringing this up, and like pinning it on her. But then it like switches to like both of them once she gets closer. But I realized that the directors, I don't know if he's doing that on purpose, probably, honestly. But there's a lot of times where it's just a shot, and then you just see the main character's like reflection through like the mirrors and everything, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, and then also like speaking of like little hidden things, when I was watching it, there was like a scene in the barn. Remember when he had found the guy with curly hair like hanging up? The dead guy, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like I don't know.
Simon?
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but like if you look in the corner, you can see like someone's like eye peeping, and it's one of the Swedish guys, but I forgot his name. And there's 3 hidden people. There's him by the door, and then there's like 2 on the other side of the wall, and they're like peeping inside. And I was like, that's so scary.
I had no idea. Like, see, like I'm a first time viewer, so I didn't really pay attention to that. I did notice when Danny was like in the bathroom, or when she was like she went to the bathroom barn, and she like in the mirror reflection, I think there was like someone watching her behind, and like she freaked out. I think I noticed that.
Yeah, it was also my first time watching it, but I did watch it with someone else, so I was like missing a lot of things, and they had to remind me like, oh, like just like you said, like, oh, watch this, or because sometimes I would not want to look at the gory stuff. I'll just cover my eyes, and then they're like, no, you have to watch like every second of it, because there's so many hidden things. But yeah, I did kind of close my eyes for like, all the scary stuff. I can't do that, it's so gross.
Yeah, it was bad. Alright, Rui, so what does the film say about like grief and trauma, and like especially like Danny's like journey through that, like going from like losing like basically her entire family to like almost joining a cult, basically.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I think it just shows like the many ways someone can deal with grief, and sometimes, you know, they're more normalized approaches. Other times you literally like are in a descent to madness, like you don't know what's going on sometimes in grief because it fully takes over you. And I think this movie was a great way to show how Danny literally went into madness, that at the end she was like, okay, like I have nothing left, I guess I'm gonna accept this, and this is my new life. Like after everything, she's like, okay, the cult is what it is, and like I'm accepting it, which I think is like really crazy to think that sometimes you can get to a point in your life where you're just like insane, but you don't feel like you're insane, you just kind of accept it.
Yeah, and I feel like for Danny, like she went through so much like trauma that to her, like, I mean, when she was seeing all the rituals happening, like when there was people sacrificing themselves, like jumping off the cliff, like it caught her completely off guard. It shook her to her core, literally. And it reminded her of like when she lost like her parents. And I kept seeing like she kept getting like little flashbacks, or like I don't know if it was the things she was drinking, but she kept getting like little flashbacks of like her mom. And also when she won like May Queen and everyone was like gathering around her, she even like saw her mom come into the crowd with her, and she was like, Mom. So in a way she felt like not like a sense of belonging, but more so of like a connection, and that's probably why she accepted like this insanity, like like honestly it was kind of insane, and she kind of accepted it because I feel like, I don't know if it was the things they were making her drink and that's what she was hallucinating, but I feel like her seeing her mom there made her really like take a step back and like accept like what she was dealing with, like becoming May Queen and deciding at the end, like,
yeah,
it was up to her who they were gonna sacrifice at the end, kind of.
Yeah, and
So
like,
it was crazy.
and then like now that you mention it, like seeing her mom in the crowd, it in a way it probably like symbolized for her like, oh, like my mom, like my family is walking with these people, and you know, like you want to walk with the people your family walks with, you know. So I think now that I'm like looking back at it, that's probably like a really crucial moment where at first she's like, Mom, like what are you doing here? And then she's like, oh, like Mom, you're here, which means I belong here. I don't know, I feel like that could have meant something.
No, yeah, I totally agree with that, because definitely like her seeing her mom was so like I think it was shocking to the audience, because in the only time she would remember her mom or like her parents were through like flashbacks or like hallucinations in her mind. It wasn't like in real like images that was physically there with her in that at that time. If she was like physically there in a way. But I do want to bring up that I noticed a lot like the like scriptures and as well as like the tapestry in the like in the barns or like outside. It was like telling like a story, and in a way like I feel like it kind of like foreshadowed what was gonna,
really did foreshadow.
Yeah. It foreshadowed like what was going to happen, and it ended up being like the story, Danny's journey in a way, like there at the Midsommar.
Yeah, it like when I first saw those tapestries, I was like, OMG, like what is this? And then at first I didn't think anything. I was like, oh, they're probably just showing like their like culture, how they have tapestries and stuff. And then like basically what the tapestries were demonstrating was like a love spell where like the girl does all these things and like has like the guy fall in love with her, and then slowly we see that happening with, I think his name is Pele, and then I think it's his sister, or he calls her his sister, and she's like slowly falling in love with Christian, and like the first thing is like she puts a little like love like engraved like bark or something under his bed.
That's great.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that was crazy. She was doing like a love spell on Christian, and obviously his dumb self fell for it because I don't like him. Like, he's truly the villain. I am not gonna lie, he's truly the villain.
No, yeah.
And I also did not like him because he also stole, what's his name?
Oh, yeah.
His thesis, or like what he was doing.
his friend's thesis.
Yeah, like what kind of friend does that? He's a horrible boyfriend and a horrible friend for that, honestly.
And then speaking of his friend, let me find his name because I want to actually like get it for you guys. Let me see.
Because I know the blonde was Mark.
Josh.
It's
okay.
Josh.
Yes. So speaking of Josh, he is like a prime example of curiosity killed the cat, because from the first thing, like how we were talking about, like that little like love spell when she put it under Christian's bed, you can see that he was awake the whole time. He saw it, and then he picked it up and then asked around, "What is this?" And that was like his first step into like his big curiosity. And then the second one is when they read their like book. And then the second thing that I think, well, it's what got Josh killed, was when he got really curious about their scriptures in that book that they have, and he literally snuck out at night to go read it, and took pictures of it. And then another thing, going back to the mirrors, is that there's a mirror. It's not really like a mirror, I think it's like a dark window, but it looks like a mirror. So when he's like taking pictures, you can like see him in his reflection, and that like the whole time it got me on edge, like, oh my gosh, is this like a double mirror situation? Is there someone on the other side? Like, what is going to happen? And then I think also it's crazy that there had already been people there ready to kill him, kind of like if they knew he would do that. I don't know.
I feel like they knew he was going to do that because like a couple scenes before, he's like asking like one of the elders like for a tour, and like they end up going to where the scripture was, and they're going through it, and he's like explaining to him like the scriptures and everything, and he even asked, he's like, can I take a picture? And he looked at him like crazy, like no, like why would you even think that? So I definitely feel like the elder knew that he was curious about that, and they probably sent out like people to like look over, or they probably had people watching them the entire night. Oh, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, because yeah,
they were probably watching.
They were probably watching them for sure. And yeah,
I think like what she mentioned when she went to go talk to that guy, I think like if you want to dive a little bit deeper into some conspiracy theories, I think like there's a scene when he's reading the scripture book, and he's like, what do these symbols mean? Because they're all symbols. And then he's like, oh, there's like a certain number of symbols, and they're all ordered, I think it was like from the holiest to the unholiest, or backwards. And then there's like a whole lot of like symbols on the page, and then he randomly points to one, and he's like, and this symbol means grief. And if you turn over, these are all empty pages because they still need to be written. So what I think is that it's kind of talking about Dani's story, because she has a story of grief and it's still unwritten. So that is the blank pages that are going to be used. I don't know, just a theory.
Oh my gosh, I really like that theory, because yeah, that makes sense, because they were blank, and for them to be like practicing those scriptures, like why would they be blank, you know? So that means their story wasn't like done, like their culture, like their beliefs like was still continuing, because they said that they do this like what, every 90 years?
Every 90 years, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a long time. And I found it like kind of crazy, not crazy, but like their whole like system, how like fall is like what ages from, I don't know, is it 0 to 18, and then spring is 18 to 36, and like it ranged like, and then once you hit like 72, that was like the end of your cycle. And it like goes back to like when they sacrificed like 2 of the elders like on the cliffs, and they jumped, and it kind of correlates to their like belief system that it's a whole circle of life. And how to get nature and like to live freely, they had to give back to the earth. And by giving back to the earth in their belief system, it's more so of like sacrificing those people who aren't able to. So I'm assuming that those elders were already 72 years old, because I don't think they would kill anyone younger. Yeah.
And then I think with that, it was kind of I guess like cool to see their belief on how they want to keep their life as like nourished and like keep it going to flourish on, and how like they reuse the names. Like the elder even said like those 2 people who died, their names are not going to be forgotten, they're going to be given to the new babies. She's like the babies over there unborn, like they're going to take on those names. So it's like an ongoing cycle of, I guess, like what they believe is like their soul living on within each body, which is like something that I feel like a lot of religions still do currently right now.
Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of religions that do that. However, I don't know if they go to the extreme of like sacrificing people. Honestly, maybe there are some small towns like far away, like hidden, and they probably do that. But that it's known as of that, I don't think so. But I just thought it was like crazy.
Yeah. Or you know what I was thinking of, like when I was watching the film, how both of them, like Josh and Christian, are writing their theses, and they're like, can we put this in? And they're like, no, but you can put this in. What I was thinking is like, if you connect this to like real time, it's like insane how there's probably so many like researchers out there who have experienced stuff like this, yet they can't like write about everything. Like if you think about like a researcher who like explored like cannibalism or something, and he wrote down a bunch of stuff, like that's all we know, but he was probably like not allowed to like say everything that's going on. So it was like a moment of like, wow, like crazy stuff like actually happened in this world that we might never like know of because like they were not allowed to be written down or they might have been killed. But yeah, it's just crazy like how many things actually go on in this world. Like that probably we have no clue. Right?
That's insane. That's all I could say is it's insane.
Crazy.
Okay, I'm gonna say. But going back to conspiracy theories, I have one of my own. Well, I actually saw like a video, and I just wanted to add on to it. So I saw this video where it was like, who was it? Pele.
Oh yeah, Pele.
He was also, what is it? He was also a child of inbreeding. And the reason why I say this is because towards the end, when they're like the May Queen, like Dani's already the May Queen, and the elders are telling her she has to pick, and they're like giving thanks to Pele for bringing on his like outsiders. They needed to bring like 4 outsiders to complete this ritual, and he thanked Pele for this. And while he was saying that, he said, "Thank you for your unclouded opinion or judgment." Yeah. And they only say that another time when one of the elders is talking about Reuben. Reuben is another inbreeding child, and what his role in the cult, okay, I'm not gonna say cult, but in their belief system is that he's like what is it, like a,
yeah, like
a prophet.
Yeah, they called him like the unclouded one, and he's the one who's going to continue writing on those blank pages of their scripture. Like he's the only one who is unclouded enough to continue that scripture going. So it's actually a good point. I also used 2 times. Do you think Pele is going to be like the next guy to write it?
Maybe he might be, because he did bring in the May Queen, and he might be actually. Yeah. We'll see about that.
Yeah. Actually, do you think Pele knew what he was doing like the whole time with bringing Dani? Like, do you think he knew that she would be the May Queen? Because like if you pay attention, like that boy, like he was extra nice to her since the beginning. It seemed like he was the only one that paid attention to stuff like that. Her birthday, saying sorry about parents, and then even when they get there, like even all the other like people in that community are already like super nice to her. So maybe it was like planned.
I definitely think it was planned, like for the 4 outsiders, such as like his friends, and the one his like, was it his brother that brought in 2 other people?
I think so.
Yeah. So they probably had like a pool of people, obviously. And when he heard that Dani was coming, I think he did suck up in a way, because right away he was like, "I'm so sorry," because it had already been like a couple of months already since like the tragic accident of her family, and he brought it up and said, "I'm sorry for your loss. Like I also had," because his own parents also passed in a fire, or something like that, right?
Yeah, he said fire.
Smoke inhalation. So I do think he was planning, but I don't think he at first planned for Dani to go. But since Christian kind of said that she was going, he kind of like put it in her mind that like it's a good idea for her to go. And
yeah, he even says like at one point, he's like, "I'm so like really glad you're coming." It's like, that's kind of weird. Like, why are you super happy about her coming? You know?
Yeah, like why are you happy your friend's girlfriend is coming? You know, like that excited.
Oh wait, actually, are we gonna let it slide that like when she won May Queen, he literally like kissed her? Like what? Like, and that just like was brushed off. Like I was like that man was plotting since the beginning. Because what?
Oh my god, yes. When I saw that, I was like, did he just really just kiss her? Yeah. Maybe it was more of like admiration and like a thank you, like you did it, you know? Yeah. In a way, like you succeeded in the plan that I plotted the entire time.
That's true, but I don't know. Maybe he did have a little crush on her, because
maybe it was love or like infatuation, or he's been plotting. Who knows? We will never know, I guess. So, you know, our last episode we talked about color theory in La La Land. I want to like talk about that in this one, because in the film, like at the beginning, it's like very dark because of the tragic accident that happened, and it really shows like to the audience that like how Danny feels in that moment, and like it's trying to illustrate like she's grieving and everything. But then throughout when she arrives to Sweden, like it's
really bright.
It's bright, like almost the entire time until they have to go to sleep. And
like with the use of color, I feel like the director kind of used it to make us feel like we were a part of it as well, or like how the characters see it, so their point of view. I feel like, because obviously from the very beginning that they get to Sweden, they take some sort of substance, and it's like, and they're not like thinking straight. And you can even see like one of the first things, like, oh, the trees are like breathing, or like the leaves are breathing, and then everything's just so bright from then. And we also see a bunch of bright colors, so I feel like maybe the director wanted us to kind of see what they were seeing,
So you're saying like the director wanted us to feel like one of like the outsiders, like one of the main characters, like Danny, for example. Yeah, I can see that, because like when she won May Queen and then they sat her down in her throne, like that was filled with like her thing was flowers, and then it was like leaves all over her chair. Like she was like breathing, but you could see that the leaves were also like breathing with her.
Yeah, like the flowers on her crown were like opening like this, and it was like, it looks like the flowers actually breathing.
Yeah, and it was like interesting to see like how at the beginning, like when they get there, they're like, you just have to be in tune with nature, and like everything's like a sort of like substance of life. And towards the end, we finally get to capture that, like through the director, by him like showing us that like the things around Danny were breathing as well, like her. They were also alive, which is really cool to see. And I liked how the director kind of showed us like you said, like how they are feeling, because when they took like those substances, you can see like Danny freaking out, and like the camera going into like kind of like a mush, and like it was very weird.
And I feel like maybe they were never sober there. Like maybe they were always on like some sort of like hallucinogen, like, because if you think about it, from the moment they got there, they took something, and then even in like the water, there's stuff. And like sometimes if you just like pay attention to the trees, like even on a normal scene, they're like moving like weirdly. So what if they're like on something the whole time? And that's also probably like why towards the end, like none of them could have been thinking straight, especially Christian and Danny. Like it was just insane.
Yeah, I want to know what they gave Christian towards the end, because that man could not move. Like I don't know if it was what he took, or like something in his mind, like he was getting like hypnotized or something, because that's what it seemed like. One of the elders like clapped in his face, and he just stood stunned, and he just couldn't move he couldn't move anymore.
Yeah, and then even like when Danny's given the choice of sacrificing him or the other guy, like he is just like, he's like frozen in his chair, like he's not even like sitting correctly, he's like this. And I'm like, did she not notice? Does she not care at this point? Like, is she so done with him? Or like, he did not look okay, and she was okay with sacrificing him.
I mean, honestly, I think she was done with him, because she did kind of like go and see what he was doing at one point. And it was so like, that was a weird, that was honestly like a really like disturbing scene for me, honestly. Just like that was just weird, like the whole like, conception. And then Danny seeing that, and you could see like how she felt. Like she went into the barn, and she's like yelling in agony. And then the girls like huddle her, like do the same thing and start like screaming in agony, which is crazy, which also like relaxed her in a way.
And I think like them doing it along with her kind of shows like that whole community is like one. Like they really like to show each other that they're all like kind of equals, and if someone's going through one thing, like they'll do the same thing to like make them feel better. Which, I don't know, it was kind of weird to see them all scream. Like, I literally was like, this is too much. I was getting a little overstimulated, I don't know.
No, yeah, I agree. But ending off on a good note, overall, the movie was really interesting to see and to watch for the first time. Definitely, I would recommend watching it a second time, because I feel like you would pick up on some things you didn't pick up the first time. So, but I will say, like I said, it is disturbing. So please, if you're kind of squeamish, please don't watch it. Like one of Quetzali actually did not watch because of the trailer. She did not like it, and that's why she's not with us right now.
I know, yeah. But yeah, if you guys went through that situation and you're one of the characters, what would y'all do? Like, would you guys have like an escape plan? Like, I don't know. Yeah, jot down your escape plan. What would you do? Do you sneak out at night? Just run away? Let us know.
We'll see you guys next time for our next episode. Bye.
And go.
And the music is very ominous.
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 What? Ominous.
Cut that. Oh my god, I can talk for hours about Christian. He's a horrible boyfriend. I forgot my birthday. I was insane too.